think the honourable gentleman's strictures would have been better directed to France and Germany, who took an isolationist stance and have taken it for 3 years on agricultural subsidies. And it would have been very much better if they had come along with the rest, instead of sticking out for their own particular farmers against the good of the European community as a whole. It was they who were isolated on that most urgent matter. With regard to investment, may I say that Wales has benefited, and the rest of the whole of the United Kingdom benefited enormously from the economic policies of this government, which has brought in tons and tons of investment from overseas to Wales, to Scotland and to the north of England, greatly to the benefit of jobs here. People have great confidence in this government, which is why they invest in Britain. What a pity the honourable member can't speak up a little more for his own country.
Yeah. Feeble!
Mr. Speaker, next Wednesday the doors of this chamber will be closed to black rod as a symbol of the independence of this House. What will be the effect, can my honourable friend say, what will be the effect on the independence of this House and the nation which elects it if the power to veto proposals affecting social affairs, environment and taxation were to be removed?
Mr. Speaker, I hope that when the next election comes, people who want to come to this House will come to uphold its powers and its responsibilities and not to denude this House of them. We have surrendered some of them to the community. In my view, we have surrendered enough.
Ben!
Is the Prime Minister aware that what we're really discussing is not a matter of economic management, but the whole future of the relations between this country and Europe? And that the issue is not best expressed in 19th century patriotic language or in emotive language about what designs on the currency. The question really is this: are the British people, when they vote in a general election, to be able to change the policies of the government that has previously been there? And it is already a fact, as the House knows full well, that whatever government is in power, our agricultural policy is now controlled from Brussels, our trade policy is controlled from Brussels, our industrial policy is controlled from Brussels, and if we go into the EMU, our financial policy will be controlled. It is a democratic and not a nationalistic argument. But may I also say this to the Prime Minister, having been a member of the government that took us in to the EC without consulting the British people, having been a Prime Minister of a government that agreed to the Single European Act without consulting the British people, having now agreed to the ERM without consulting the British people, well, we do not really find it hard to believe that she is really intent on preserving democracy rather than gaining some political advantage from waiving some national argument in the eve of a general election. That is why we do not trust her own judgment on the matter.
Mr. Speaker, I think I would put it just a little bit differently from the right honourable gentleman, although I recognise some of the force of some of the points that he's making. I think when the proposals for, the Delors proposals for EMU came out, the Economic and Monetary Union, it was said immediately by my right honourable friend, the then Chancellor of the Exchequer, that this was not really about monetary policy at all. It was really about a backdoor to a federal Europe. A federal Europe taking many, many democratic powers away from democratically elected bodies to non-elected ones. I believe fervently that that is true, which is why I will have nothing to do with their definition of economic and monetary union. We will continue the cooperation which we have come to establish as nation states. But when when the act was passed, which enabled us to go into Europe, it was passed on second reading by 8 votes. But it was made very clear at that time that we were not going to surrender our national identity. It was a matter of cooperation. And on the face of that, many people went in. But that, I'm afraid, would be quite different if we went for a single currency, a central bank, and their definition of EMU.
Churchill.
Will my right honourable friend tell the House how far she believes that Germany, when the moment comes, will be prepared to see the transfer of its monetary policy from the Bundesbank to a European central bank on which it will have one voice out of 12?
Mr. Speaker, I think it's wrong to think that each of the 12 have similar votes or influence on these matters. I think that there are some in Germany who are backing this scheme, only some, but some, because they know that the dominant voice on any central bank would be the German one, the predominant voice. And of course, if we did not retain our national identities in Europe, the dominant people in Europe would be German. And the way in which to balance out, as we have traditionally done throughout history, to balance out the different views in Europe is by retaining our national identity.
Andrew Fowles.
In view of the imminent deaths of thousands of young men, Arab, European and American, would it not be more compassionate and more realistic of the Prime Minister to abandon her adamant refusal even to contemplate a negotiated solution to the Gulf crisis?
I haven't noticed much compassion about Saddam Hussein in Kuwait, or about the way the hostages have been treated, or our embassies have been treated, or the nationals in Kuwait. There is nothing to negotiate about. The United Nations has said,
Down, boy.
I seem to hear the stench of appeasement in the air. A rather nauseating stench of appeasement. The United Nations has clearly said that Iraq must come out of Kuwait.
Order. Order. Please sit down, Prime Minister. Order. The honourable gentleman, really, that's a very bad behaviour from an honourable member in this place. Well, order. He's asked the question. He's getting the answer. He may not like it, but he mustn't shout in that way.
Saddam Hussein started a war. It continues day after day with the killing and murder and torture and brutal treatment of people. Some people, indeed most of this House, have the guts to stand up against him.
Yes, you.
I'm obliged, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, could I ask you why you've been so modest this afternoon? Have you not in the past stood alone on European matters and been proved to be right? I'm thinking of United Kingdom contributions. I'm thinking of the reform of the agricultural policy. I'm thinking of mortgage cartels. I'm thinking of exchange controls. Each time, Prime Minister, you've been right. Why should this House not trust you today?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, may I thank my knight in shining armour. I couldn't have put it better myself.
Mr. Dave Nellis.